समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या समझ में नहीं आया?
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
आप समझा?
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
The next big political face-off is going to be in Bihar. And our headlines the last few days have been dominated by the fight between the opposition and the Election Commission when it comes to the revision of roles in Bihar. Rahul Gandhi in particular has gone hammer and tongs at the Election Commission that has also hit back at the Congress leader and has asked him to submit proof of his allegation of electoral irregularities in the next 7 days or apologize. The BJP has also waded into the so-called voter fraud controversy, making its own set of allegations, this time in constituencies that have been won by the Congress and other opposition leaders. In the midst of all the debate around the revision of electoral rolls is the main political question that elections are usually about. Who's ahead in Bihar? Who's the most preferred candidate for the post of Chief Minister? In a moment from now, we'll be joined by Yashwant Deshmukh to answer some of these questions. I'm Barkha, you're with the Mojo Story. For the last few days, we have seen an unseemly battle unfold between the Election Commission and the opposition. Rahul Gandhi made a series of grave allegations about electoral irregularities, and the Election Commission has hit back, asking him to submit proof or apologize within the next 7 days. Rahul Gandhi has doubled down on his attack on the campaign trail in Bihar, even threatening that action will be taken against officials of the Election Commission who have participated in what the opposition is calling voter fraud. The BJP hasn't kept out of this debate either. Anurag Thakur has made his own allegations about what he's calling voter irregularities in seats that have been won by Rahul Gandhi and other opposition leaders. In the midst of all of this is the big question: who's ahead in Bihar? As we have this to and fro over Election Commission and the opposition, who's ahead? Is Nitish Kumar going to manage to retain his grip over Bihar? Is Prashant Kishor going to be the X factor, the surprise factor of this election? Tejashwi Yadav has just today said that he is going to ensure that the Bihar result will catapult Rahul Gandhi to the post of Prime Minister. How is this all going to happen? What's going to happen in Bihar? Let's read the political tea leaves with Yashwant Deshmukh. He's back with us after a very long time. Yashwant, it's been too long, and it's good to see you and read the political tea leaves with you as always. Before we get deep into the debate around the revision of electoral rolls, the fight between the Election Commission and the opposition, let's start with what we usually talk about in elections. Kaun aage, kaun piche, kaun banega mukhyamantri, and so on. Now, I want to bring up the C voter tracker, the Bihar tracker, because one of the very interesting things that you do is that you track the changes in mood over the last few months. And what we see is something very interesting. Tejashwi Yadav remains the most popular choice for chief ministerial candidate. However, his numbers have actually dropped from 40.6 in February to 31.3% today. Before we talk about the other candidates, let's talk about Tejashwi Yadav.
I think Tejaswi is still miles and miles ahead in the race for a simple reason, Barkha, that there is no ambiguity as far as the chief ministerial candidates among the opposition voters are concerned. You know,
Yeah.
he has the rock solid support of MY combination, the core support base of the RJD. He has the rock solid support of the Congress, the voters whatsoever, the residual voters of Congress in the states are concerned. So I think he is sitting pretty, at least Bihar knows who is the main guy in the opposition rank and file. I mean, as far as the anti-BJP voters are concerned, I would say. But more than Tejaswi's as such numbers, what has in the last 6 months surprised me consistently is the rise in popularity of Prashant Kishor. I wasn't never expecting him to be, actually, to be honest, to be starting with the double digit at all. But not only he has been in the double digit, but he has almost crossed the threshold of 20% now in popularity. And having
Can I actually talk about that number for just a moment? And I'm just going to pull up the exact numbers here. When you polled in February, his rating was at 14.9%, and it's jumped up to 21.7%. But the really important point in this survey is that he has in fact overtaken Nitish Kumar in the ratings for chief ministerial candidate, and he's now number 2 behind Tejashwi Yadav. So let's talk about Prashant Kishor for a moment.
So this is significant. This is significant in a way that I don't remember I have seen in Bihar politics anybody without a caste spectrum to support in a particular way. Because we know the smaller parties, even in Bihar, they were largely caste driven. That was the even for that matter, even bigger parties have been caste driven, not just the smaller parties. When he started, most of people, including me, had written him away that, okay, it's not possible. I mean, there is no scope as such. But somehow it seems that there is a caste agnostic voter in Bihar as well, somehow, I feel. Which may or may not be deciding his or her vote purely on the caste equation. So that's where he has kind of roped in angry voter from the BJP and angry voter from RJD both, taking his name. What I am still not very sure about is the bipolarity of the Bihar politics, which has been very long time. It has been there. The only triangular contest that came in that way, apart from 2014 when everybody was contesting separately, was contesting as a third one, and he damaged JDU largely, in big number of seats, and polled approximately 5-6% votes. That's the ballpark number. I think Prashant is genuinely making it three-cornered, at least in popularity. But what I'm not sure is that how much of this popularity will actually get converted into votes when the bipolarity kind of starts squeezing in again at the time of voting, because largely it will be anti and pro. That means anti-RJD vote will polarize in favor of BJP, anti-BJP vote will polarize in favor of RJD. I mean, the two poles largely.
Yeah.
So in that bipolarity, will he be squeezed out? Or if he doesn't squeeze out, then in which seat, where exactly he is damaging, and will he be able to convert any traction, that popularity of vote, into seats and become a kingmaker or king himself? These are the multiple questions which are important to keep on asking and important to keep an eye on, because what he is doing is something which is unusual. What he is doing is something which I don't think anybody of us expected that. But he's there. So let's just watch and see how it goes from here.
So in a way, what you're saying is that Prashant Kishor, in terms of, when you do a popularity survey, is the number 2 most popular choice for chief ministerial candidate today. But we have to see the conversion of these these responses to seats. B, you have to see how he performs if the election gets more and more bipolar. Will he be king? Will he be kingmaker? Just before we sort of move on to other issues in Bihar, the other person who's improved his ratings a lot is Chirag Paswan. And coinciding with that is the fall of Nitish Kumar. If you look at the Nitish numbers, and let me actually pull them up here, Nitish Kumar's numbers have fallen from 18.4% in February to 14.9%. I mean, but Nitish's political obituary has been written before also, and he somehow seems to manage to survive every time. Can you talk a little bit about Nitish Kumar and what's at stake for him in what many believe might be his last election?
Yeah, I mean, I believe this is a question which many of the viewers as well, I mean, those who comment on the tweets, and they have asked that, how is it possible that Nitish has dropped? And how are people so angry? Barkha, the fact is that people are not really angry with Nitish. It is kind of fatigue factor, maybe, that has set in. And it's also that if I ask a two horse race question from the pollster perspective between Nitish and Tejashwi, then of course the entire RJD anti-RJD vote starts polarizing for Nitish. So here also, if you will add up the NDA bloc together, Samrat about 10, Chirag about 10, and Nitish, and put everybody together, then you will realize that okay, they are somewhere between 35 to 40% in that block. And if it becomes bipolar, then Nitish number might become more than probably Tejaswi might be. I mean, in that way. So it's the nuance of that thing to be understood, that there is a fatigue factor with Nitish. People are not really angry or upset with him. It is just that people are just tired in that way. But does that mean that people are going to vote him out? I cannot say that for 100% sure in that way, because it's an alliance thing. People will vote on the alliance candidacy and alliance organizational structure. So I cannot say for sure that if it is going to be an anti-Nitish kind of a verdict. But in Bihar, what we have seen for sure that the candidates also matter, the caste equation matters. A lot of that will also depend on what kind of seat distribution takes place, because this time Chirag Paswan is within the NDA, NDA side, and if the seat distribution goes off properly, then NDA might have an arithmetic edge. But if there is a problem within the seat distribution, then RJD will get an opening over there. And then the question of Prashant Kishor, because he will be having plenty. I mean, another thing, misconception that many people have: how is Prashant going to get candidates? Barkha, Prashant is going to be overloaded with the candidates. He is going to have a problem of plenty for a simple reason, that every seat, RJD has got two serious candidates. Every seat, the BJP or the NDA has two serious candidates. Wherever one guy is not going to get a ticket from their side, he or she will be open to go to Prashant Kishor and contest that seat on. So Prashant Kishor is not going to face any problem of candidates, because they would be serious candidates, rejected tickets, and they would make a beeline to Prashant Kishor to get his candidate. However, winnability will always remain a question. The existential question for Prashant in this election would be, not existential because he's starting his journey, and I believe that he is aiming more at 2030 rather than 2025. But what will impact his longevity in Bihar politics is whether after this election he will be treated as a kingmaker or a vote katwa, vote spoiler. If the image becomes of a vote spoiler, then it will be difficult for him to sustain his activity for the next 5 years. But if he manages to become a kingmaker of sort, then I think he has a great future in Bihar politics, because he can then think in a very practical way of positioning himself where Nitish or JDU is as the party in Bihar. Wherever JDU or Nitish swings, there the power equation goes. So I think he can then dream of becoming the next JDU of Bihar, next Nitish of Bihar. But it will all depend on what kind of vote conversion and seat conversion takes place in his favor, in favor in this particular election.
Now, Yashwant, at the moment, the two top preferred CM candidates in your C voter survey are both opposed to the BJP, opposed to the NDA. But the opposition believes that Bihar, or is alleging that Bihar is not a fair election because of the row over the revision of roles, right? Now, I want to go to the next question. How much of an issue is this? Now, what's very interesting is that when you asked, will SIR become an electoral issue in Bihar, 55.4% of opposition voters, but also 34.4% of NDA voters say that this will be a large issue, right?
Yeah.
And to some extent, another 20% of NDA voters are saying to some extent. That means 50% of half of all NDA voters are also saying कि ये मुद्दा है. To that extent, has the opposition succeeded in making this a political issue, a political talking point?
I think opposition has succeeded to a large extent, Barkha. I mean, that is something which I would say that they have made an issue out of it, no doubt. Now, whether it is a sustainable issue, again, that is a question mark. Reason being that we are looking at the SIR updates given by Election Commission. Opposition can say that they marked a victory when Supreme Court asked EC to put up the list of the 65 lakh deleted voters and like that. Question is that number was already given to the opposition polling agents. It's not that the list was unknown or list was not public. You know, when there are more than 1.5 lakh polling agents of different political parties who are given hard and soft copy of the deleted voter, they are public representatives, right? They are very much. So I don't buy this argument that information was not made public in that way. So the real problem will arise for the NDA if after making forward the final list, there is a big number of people who come and say, oh, हमारा नाम कट गया, हम तो जिंदा हैं, हमको मरा हुआ बोल दिया, and those kind of thing. If that happens, then it will really really open a Pandora's box. But so far, it doesn't seem like that, because today we are looking at almost like 20 days of making the draft list for the agents and the electoral and the political parties. And so far, Election Commission says not a single political agent or political party has filed a single complaint something is going wrong. They say that there are many thousand new voters who have gone up and applied, few thousand individuals who have come up, whose names were not there, but not through the structure of the political parties, not through the political agents. So what does that mean is that in July itself, Election Commission had made all those changes and made the political parties and their agents aware of those changes. And they asked for deletion or suggestion between 16th of July and 30th of July. I think they worked and they gave the changes, suggested changes. And the new draft was made available after those changes were implemented in that. And this is the reason now at the political apparatus level, I would be very surprised if there would be big number of complaints coming up on the deletion or addition of the votes. So a lot depends on how the final draft is when the final draft is released, how the public is looking at it, and if public is finding their name or names deleted for genuine reason or not, how the public looks at it. That will decide if SIR will become an electoral issue in the upcoming elections or not.
But Yashwant, we have seen an unprecedented hostility. At least I don't remember it in the last few so many elections that both you and I have looked at, between the Election Commission and the opposition parties. We had the Chief Election Commissioner leading a very, very aggressive press conference on the weekend, asking Rahul Gandhi to apologize in 7 days or submit proof. We've had Rahul Gandhi warning of consequences, saying one day it will be the opposition in power, and then action will be taken against officials who have enabled what he calls voter fraud. Now, when you actually asked respondents whether the EC should take quote-unquote necessary actions to restore its own credibility, I was very struck by these numbers. Many of your respondents who are NDA voters didn't necessarily agree with Rahul Gandhi, so there was a political division there. However, your question, should the EC respond to Rahul's claim to safeguard credibility? 78.9% opposition voters said yes, but nearly 58% NDA voters also said yes. So how do we understand this?
I think voters at large want everybody to come out clean. Let's accept that. See, the common man on the street is least bothered about what Ganesh Kumar's personal equation is or what Rahul Gandhi's personal politics is. I think when you are looking at the democratic nature of elections and the process at large, and also, please, Barkha, remember that epic, for that matter, for 3 decades was the identity card Indians had, right?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
everybody had a passport, right? For everything and anything, we were using epic, So it is not just about politics; it's about their identity as well. So people on the ground actually want everybody to come clean. They want the process to be cleaned up. They want the voter list to be cleaned up. They want the identity card to be issued without the spelling mistakes, without the address mistakes, the generic mistakes that in the computation has been happening. And I don't blame EC or anybody saying so, because yes, we know it's a Herculean task. It's a process which will involve errors and the corrections will have to be done. Number one. Public wants it to be done. Public wants everybody to come out clean. Public wants an electoral roll which everybody can trust and look on and like that. So yes, the fact is that people will support largely SIR if it eventually cleans up the process. But people will not support it. It is something which they feel they are being hassled, number one, or they feel that the process is unduly designed to help somebody this way or that way. Now, that is the question where the opposition is hitting, and that is what I guess it's getting into a territory, uncharted and actually very, very unfortunate territory, where it is becoming a personal battle of ego between LOP and the CEC. And that's uncalled for, I think, largely because, Barkha, Chief Election Commissioner Ganesh Kumar probably took it personally, which everybody is saying, being on a constitutional post, he should have been more legal in his words rather than taking it personally. But when was the last time the LOP said the CEC is chore? Now, that is something, Barkha, me, you, anybody, if somebody says you are chore, might take it personally. So that's the unfortunate part of it, which should have been avoided. If the idea was to cleanse the roll, idea was to point certain, ways of certain things which were avoidable, I think it should have been a process which would have brought the electoral reforms or cleansing or the next round of biometric identification of the electoral roll and all those kind of things. But it didn't start with that, because the entire campaign was aimed to discredit the process and discredit CEC. And it is not a new thing, Barkha. It started with discrediting EVMs for the last 15 years by anybody and everybody who was losing the election, including LK Advani, by the way. So we have criticized everybody on that ground. But it has now reached to a situation where that CEC is chore or Election Commission is chore. I think it's unfortunate.
But what you're saying is that, as you said, it's becoming a personal battle of egos between the LOP and CEC, and both need to be more temperate in their language, in their response. But if we were to look at the response to your C-voter survey, most people do want the EC to take necessary action, right? Corrective action. Hence, I wonder, when Rahul Gandhi first did his press conference, looking at Karnataka as the example, the EC could have, instead of asking for an affidavit, said, "Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We will inquire and let you know." Suppose they had just said that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with what you are saying. Yes. I mean, that would have been a diplomatic way of saying that, okay, thank you for, and you are just actually to take it one step ahead, Barkha, what you are saying. Thank you for saying so, and this is precisely what we are trying to do in SIR. So support the SIR. It could have been done that. I think where it went wrong, Barkha, was that EC took it personally, the allegation of chore and that kind of language. It is a political language. It might have, a campaign of Chaukidar Chor hai, because it was a political campaign. EC Chor hai is not a political campaign per se. It's not an electoral campaign. So it might have hurt Ganesh Kumar, who is not a politician. So, but people want everybody to compete. That is right. So when he was targeted, or when he felt he was targeted personally, he came out all gun blazing, saying that, either apologize or give the proof. I think everybody has to de-escalate here, because
Yeah.
this is a flight which easy to take off, Barkha, but no runway to land. Because what is the end game here? It's everybody has to understand what is the end game here. You cannot remove CEC. He has a constitutional post. Mahabhiyog le aiye, but you do not have the number in the parliament. All right. What happens after that? Is the CEC gonna go away? No, he's gonna remain there. Number two, unlike many other, not all the opposition parties have agreed to what Congress has said on the EVMs. We have seen that. And they may or they may not agree on Mahabhiyog on those kind of things with the Congress, as and when that happens. Yesterday, I believe that a Congress spokesperson said that it was a individual opinion of a member of parliament, not Congress. Congress as an organization hasn't said that they want to impeach CEC.
Yeah.
But I also read news report that they were talking, and many opposition parties, on how to go about the impeachment motion and the legalities of it. If that happens, what is the end game? That's what I'm trying to understand. At the end of the day, if you will say, okay, we do not believe this election commission, we do not have any trust in Ganesh Kumar, so we will boycott elections till he is removed. Is that the end game? And if you boycott the election, is it going to serve the purpose? Is it like what Dhaka model that we are talking about, boycott the election and then say that India has become undemocratic? And most importantly, will the opposition parties who are ruling their own states and easily winning their election comprehensively, will they participate and say that, we will not? Why should Mamata Banerjee, who is sitting pretty, say that I will not participate in elections, I will boycott election? Why should Stalin say that I will boycott the election? Why would Akhilesh, for that matter, or Tejashwi for that matter, who are
But Akhilesh did submit affidavits from earlier in parliament. He said, देखिए, EC keeps saying affidavit submit करो. ये देखिए, हमने submit किया, EC ने कुछ नहीं किया. So I think that is an appropriate way to express your disagreement, right?
Put it on parliament, make a probe committee, ask for the accountability from the election commission. Go to the public, ask those things, ask uncomfortable questions, make them accountable. That's fine. That's what the process should look like. That's why you have to support the SIR in a nationwide scale. That's why you have to bring in the next round of electoral reforms, where you make it compulsory to connect the EPIC with the Aadhaar and other biometric things, so that the voter fraud. And by the way, Barkha, this is one interesting thing which I must say on the voter roll thing. Couple of things. Everybody knows there are problems with voter list. Number one, I got one after the from Lucknow to Delhi and Delhi to Ghaziabad, 3 different voter iCards whenever, I shifted my thing. Every time there was some or other spelling mistake in my voter iCard. My dad's name was spelled wrong. My address was at the time written wrong. My name was spelled wrong. So, everybody knows that voter iCards have the data issues and other issues. That's fine. Second thing, about the cleansing of this thing, that how many people died, we should not forget that post 1991, this country has witnessed massive internal migration in terms of urbanization. There are huge number of migrant voters who keep on changing their address between their home state and working state from season to season. For big number of voters, when they move, they do not get their names chopped off, either intentionally or by mistake. Intentionally also, because in a very mundane way, Barkha, easy to understand, जो गांव छोड़ करके शहर में काम करने आता है, वो गांव में केवल इसलिए वोट रखता है क्योंकि उसके पास में वही आईडी होता है, खेत का, बाकी चीजों का, to inherit those lands and everything. Nobody wants to basically dilute that identity card over there, and at the same time they want to vote, participate in the election in the new place. So this India's migration story is fascinating. The urbanization and urban migration story is no less than 20 to 30%. We ask this question in our tracker, by the way, every day. If I show you that graph, you will be amazed to see that there are about more than 25% voters who actually say the place they are in is not the place where they were born.
But does this migration possibly explain what the opposition is calling an addition sometimes in a state between the Lok Sabha and the Assembly elections? Right? For example, Maharashtra has.
Yeah, in Maharashtra, for example, it cannot, barring the fact that if you are getting in new voters into the list and explaining it,
Yeah.
like for example, the numbers which are deleted. Now, deleted if it is deleted by the SIR. Now, if deleted and if it was not given to you after deletion and you had objected to it, then you have a case. But when it was deleted or it was added to that, and if your agent has given approval to that list on each and every booth, if you have given 45 days of time to complain, you did not complain, and you have accepted those lists, your agents have accepted those lists, then it's a problem somewhere, So I'm not saying that EC should not come clean or the SIR should not go ahead or the process should not be made transparent. But just to come out only in the places where you lost the election, that is a selective bias. I mean, what the process is required is an all India proper SIR with biometrics to overcome all these challenges and make this election.
What about the argument that Yogendra Yadav, who has appeared in the court, others have made, that it is predominantly the poor and the marginalized who will be falling short of some of this documentation. And the spirit of India's democracy is to include as many people as is legally possible in an election, right? Obviously, legality cannot be compromised. But always, you and I are more likely to have a passport than somebody who works in a home as a domestic help, right? That's just the nature of class reality.
Right.
So how do we address that issue?
I think that's also a misconception, Barkha, because the way in the last 15 years all the Labharti Yojanas have been panned out by the state and the central government, you will be surprised to know that today the documents with the bottom of the pyramid mass has much more over there than, because they apply for all these schemes with these documents. So if you look into even the CSDS survey where these points were raised, you will be surprised to see that among one of the highest blocks are also the scheduled tribes, who have more documents than even the upper caste voters in many of the places. So what I'm simply trying to say that while it should be ensured that nobody particularly from the bottom of the pyramid should be left out, and this one point which I found pretty interesting from Nitish Kumar's press conference was the address of zero, that even the homeless are given the address as a zero, which honestly I never knew that. I mean, that was a news for me. I never knew that process, that where the zero come. I also thought that it was something
some anomaly. Even I thought it was an anomaly. Yeah.
But now we know that it's actually a process, that those who are homeless, or for that matter, Barkha, in majority of the villages, the homes do not have number. What is the address? If you send a post to, generally the address in India is Barkha that gram and post so and so, Jila ye. There is no house number in the villages. So if there is no house number in 20 of the villages, then the house number in the form there. I didn't know it. That is the process. I'm so glad. And this is why regular press
briefings.
Exactly. This is so critical. To let people know. Election Commission should be holding many more press conferences like that to at least tell how it goes and how it happens.
So let me end with this debate around the credibility of the Election Commission and the CSDS survey as published in the Hindu on this. But before that, One of our regular viewers, Prasad Duvuri, says, Barkha, when the CEC stressed multiple times in his presser on Sunday that they are there to protect the rights of citizens, he should have used the high ground instead of getting personal. I think this is something that everybody is saying, that why such aggression from the head of a constitutional body?
Agreed. Agreed. I mean, and that's where we started. That it seems like a personal battle now, and what I feel like he became personal largely because I mean, if any IAS officer who is honest and sitting on thing, and if the campaign runs on chore, that person might not feel good about it. So while asking Ganesh Kumar why he is getting personal, one should also give a thought that the chore campaign, that vote chore, is also maybe felt by the three election commissioners as a personal campaign against them. That why election commission is being called chore. आप किसी को चोर बोलेंगे तो वो भी पर्सनल ले सकता है. I think both ways it was unfortunate. I think running the campaign on chore was unfortunate against the election commission, and I think election commission taking to that level of going, they could have been more legal and diplomatic in the way they said about the things, and drawn a larger line, larger, as you said. Just go ahead and thank them, that thank you very much.
Yeah.
These are exactly the issues we are trying to clean up in SIR, and precisely the issues. Because if it's funny thing, when you look into Rahul Gandhi's press conference and the PPT, the items which he has written, how many dead voters, how many displaced voters, how many, these are precisely the things which SIR is reporting. How many among the 65, how many duplicate voters, precisely the numbers, precisely the things. So if these two agendas are confluencing, if those two agendas are like it's odd and ironical to see what CEC is working in SIR and what Rahul Gandhi is asking him to do are the same thing. If they are the same thing, essentially, Barkha, then where is the problem?
Well, Rahul Gandhi would not agree with that, but I think it'll be interesting to see how much of an issue, as you have pointed out, this becomes on the ground in the campaign. I want to end by picking up the CSDS data on the credibility and the trust in the Election Commission. If we can bring those slides up. This is, of course, by states, and there's a very different set of responses when it comes to moderate trust and high trust, because in places moderate trust is increased, for example in Bengal, but high trust is declined. It's kind of confusing. But if you look at the overall slide of CSDS, they say, if you have that slide, I think they say 9% do not trust the EC at all, and 16% trust it somewhat. And then there's a large chunk that continues to believe that the Election Commission will still do its job. Now, how do you look at this debate around trust in the EC?
Well, even in this number, which is like more than 2/3 of Indians actually trust the EC, but that number has come down in their own previous poll by some point. So it is like saying that the trust level has gone down, but still huge majority chunk of the Indians actually trust the Election Commission. So both the statements are correct, Barkha. Both the statements are correct, but that's not the full picture. When you are showing that graphic, you will also read two funny things. The confidence of Election Commission has gone up in Bengal. Just the number.
If we go back to it, when I looked at Bengal, you see, if you look at that, level of moderate trust has gone up, level of high trust has come down.
It's slightly come down, 48 to 50 to 42. So it went up and came down. But in survey sciences, whenever you say take the net thingy, generally the high and the moderate are combined together. The numbers swing between these two. Any drop should be considered alarming. I'm not denying that. Any drop should be. An Election Commission should look into it and say that even if there is a high to moderate going, it is not a good news for Election Commission. They should work on it. But I am also looking at the fact, Barkha, India has become highly polarized on many things, and a lot of political campaign does have the impact on to and fro on how people are reacting to it. At the same time, wherever the opposition is winning, in Bengal they have won. So people do not have any problem because those who are voting for, feel that they are counted for. In Tamil Nadu, they do not have a problem, But wherever the opposition feels that they are not winning, probably because of this campaign, a lot of their voters might be feeling, यार कुछ तो गड़बड़ है, नहीं तो यहाँ पे भी हमारे यहाँ पे भी हम जीत गए होते. It's that kind of thing. Now that doubt is something which is not new, Barkha, because we have seen for 25-30 years, every time who is losing the election, very rarely I have seen people saying, accepting fair and square that we lost. Yeah, chalo haar gaye, nobody's fault. There will be always some finger pointing. ये हेरा फेरी हुई है, धांधली हुई है, गड़बड़ किया गया है, like that. People at large do not believe that. People at large. But when you make a sustained campaign out of it, when you make the political differences to such an extreme that you start raising your fingers at the bodies as well and make a campaign, political campaign out of it, then if your supporters start feeling you are saying the right thing, elections are garbage, कुछ झोल हुआ है, कुछ गड़बड़ हुआ है, then this full trust starts going into moderate trust. That something is missing. कुछ तो है, राहुल गांधी इतना कह रहे हैं, जरूर कोई तो कुछ तो हुआ है, Now, it's for the election commission to restore that trust. I understand it might be frustrating for them to say कि यार ये तो हमारा political भी नहीं है, हमारे ऊपर आरोप लगा दिया, अब हम अपना. But I believe that at the end of the day, politicians का काम है आरोप लगाना, बरखा. Institutions का काम है अपने तरीके से उसको चलाना और उसके आरोपों में न पड़ते हुए अपनी लाइन को लंबा खींचना. And I genuinely believe and pray that election commission does the SIR in a very, very good way in Bihar, so that once the Bihar voters give a thumb approval that, okay, we did not have any issues with SIR and we could not find any problem in SIR and Bihar elections go well, then this trust for moderate will go to high again. But at some point of time, this personal attack has to be brought down in the larger
Absolutely.
Democracy. It's not healthy, it's not good, because claim and counter game set aside, politics aati jati rehti, but at the end of the day, if the institutions get affected by that, either by the politicians campaigning against them or election commission retaliating in that way, it will be unfortunate. I just hope ECI focus more on the SIR and more on the line. They have to be the neutral umpire, play the bigger game, not to take it personally, not to go into that. होगा पॉलिटिकल कैंपेन होगा, चलने दीजिए, अपना ध्यान SIR पे कीजिए, बिकॉज अगर आपने SIR अच्छा कर दिया और इलेक्शन सही ढंग से कंप्लीट करा दिए तो ट्रस्ट वाले क्वेश्चन को अपने आप हाशिए पे चला जाएगा. आई डोंट थिंक पीपल आर गोइंग टू वॉच मोर ऑन दैट.
I completely agree with you, because one of the things that separates our democracy from, let's say, the American democracy more recently is that, notwithstanding a few arguments ki kaun kaise jeeta, kaise hara, there is a graceful आप जीते, congratulations, हम हारे, अगली बार introspect करेंगे. This used to be the way of India, to call into question election results and to have this sort of breakdown between the election commission and the leader of the opposition. It cannot augur well for our democracy. We leave it there, Yashwant. It's always an education to talk to you. Thank you. And of course, your Mood of the Nation survey is coming up soon, so we'll have a chance to talk to you again very soon. Take care and see you soon. Take care. Bye, Yashwant. Bye. It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Voter Story and support independent, robust journalism.